And I'm joined here this evening by Ellen Lastinger, who is our Director of Admissions at Sarasota University. And I see so many people logging in. We've got folks from all over. I see Victoria, British Columbia, Canada, Raleigh, North Carolina, Bozeman, Montana, Omaha, Nebraska, Tampa, Florida. Hi, Lorna. Thank you all for being here tonight. Oh, Ellen, chilly Central Texas. That is for sure. It's the temperatures are dipping. I know for those of you who are in really cold places, our 45 degrees is nothing for you. You'd probably be out there in shorts and a t-shirt, but it's really cold for me. So we are expecting the temperatures to drop. We're just so happy to see you here tonight, and I'd just like to take a moment to remind everyone that Sarasota University does offer a Bachelor's of Science completion program in Montessori education. We have two master's degrees, one in Montessori education and the other in Montessori leadership. And finally, I am over the moon to share with you that we are launching our inaugural doctoral cohort this July 1st of 2025. So super exciting things happening at Sarasota University. And if you'd like more information about Sarasota, please email info@sarasotauniversity.edu. And Ellen's already got it in the chat. Wow, way to go, Ellen. Thank you. Tonight we have Ryan Moralevitz, who is here talking to us about his project, Fish's Wishes. Am I saying that right, Ryan?
Yes, that was perfect.
And Ryan is a Montessori graduate and practitioner. I am indebted to one of our professors, Jermaine Dijon, for introducing us to Ryan. And Ryan, I'm just delighted to have you here tonight and can't wait to hear about the great things that you're doing to make the world a better place. And so I'll turn it over to you, Ryan. We were having a little bit of technical difficulties earlier, so hopefully we've overcome those. Ryan, are you able to access the screen at this time? I have
So
it set so multiple people are
it's been
able
a
to.
while.
Oh, there we go.
Zoom. All right, perfect. Can everybody see that? Does that look good?
Yes, it looks great.
All right, awesome. So I suppose I'll kick off my presentation. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you so much for having me here today. I'm excited to share with you what I've been doing and over the years, and a little bit also about the ocean in general towards the end of the presentation. But I'm going to start off by just introducing myself, how I got into the ocean. My name is Ryan. I'm 18 years old, and I've been helping the ocean for 14 years through my project, The Fish's Wishes, and a little bit about how I got started originally with my project. So when I was 4 years old, I loved the ocean and I'd be just enthralled. I'd go down to low tide every chance I got and I'd explore the tidal pools for all kinds of little creatures, snails. I love the little things, crabs and little fish. And the more I went down to low tide, the more I started to notice the trash along the beach. And originally, I didn't know that it was bad for the animals per se, but I had some experiences that kind of taught me it was. One of them, I actually got it on in photography, is a crow taking trash back to its nest. And, trash isn't natural. It shouldn't be given to babies in a nest. So I didn't want this to happen because I knew it was affecting the wildlife that I had come to love so much. It was affecting it negatively. And so I started to bring a bag every time I went to the beach to do little cleanups. And I just, I'd go down, and whenever I went to go look for the creatures, I'd do a cleanup after, and I found some crazy stuff. There's a shoe in the left corner. And eventually, there were a few catalysts for why I originally started my project. And, oh, sorry. And one of them was one day, it was just like any other day down at the beach. I was looking at wildlife and I saw a group of people roll a tire, like a big car tire, directly into the ocean. And that really made me upset because it was just so blatant and it was like an act of treachery against this beach that I'd come to love so much. And I turned to my parents and I said, the ocean needs our help. And that's when the Fish's Wishes was founded. And early on in the Fish's Wishes, what I did, I started to make my cleanups bigger. I invited family, friends, teachers, everybody I knew. Actually, my Montessori classroom was here in kindergarten. Everyone I knew to come out in these cleanups so that we could help to keep the beaches devoid of trash. And it's really great. I always say that one person can make a difference, but it's really great getting a bunch of volunteers out there as well because you can just clean up trash on such a big scale. I mean, if everybody at this cleanup were to clean up half a bag of trash, and it would be a massive impact. And that was really fun. I love inviting my friends on stuff like this as well because especially back then, it was a great way to teach them about what I had learned and to spread the message of conservation. And this is why I help the ocean. Just before I move on and my other stuff I've done over the years, this is why I help. It's always been the animals, and I'll touch on this a little more later. The ocean helps us humans with so many different things, but the animals have just had a special place in my heart from the moment I discovered the ocean. I mean, these are just little animals that you can find right near me in the Dunedin Causeway. That's where I've always gone. And I just find them, they're beautiful. They're alien. They're like nothing else on Earth. And they've always just enthralled and inspired me to want to help even more.
Are you going to the gym? No.
And so as I went on in my conservation, I started doing other projects and I wanted to expand my reach and expand where I was helping. And so this it was a really cool project that I did. My Montessori school, Safety Harbor Montessori, allowed me to come and build this big mangrove station, I suppose you can call it, where we planted mangrove propagules in these little buckets and waited until they got like, I'd say about a foot tall. And my whole classroom and I went out on the beach and we planted all these mangroves. And these plants are very important. I'll touch a little bit in the next slide for many different reasons. And a similar plant is called a sea oat, and this is kind of like a tiny version of a mangrove to where it can help. So what these plants do is, well, there's a few things they do. First of all, their roots grow really deep into the sand at the beach. And in Florida, we're known for getting big, hurricanes and storms that come in. And these hurricanes, if the beach isn't well maintained, it can literally just swipe out the beach, like to take it away from existence. And what these mangroves and sea oats do is their roots anchor the sand and hold it tight so that it creates dunes. And when a storm comes, you still have a beach. And not only that, but they also act as nurseries for all kinds of different baby animals, from turtles to birds. And it's really important because there's a lot of endangered species that live in these plants. And so this is a project I was particularly excited about. It was all the way back in 2021. A bunch of my, family, friends, and even some volunteers that I hadn't met before, we all came out and helped to plant 7,000 sea oats. And that sounds like a really big number, but we were able to do it in like a day or half a day even. But what was really, and this is one of my proudest moments in all my conservation work, is we came out a few years later, and this was 2023, I believe. Yeah, 2023, and these sea oats had developed into a whole like microbiome, a whole tiny forest. And you can even see there's other little plant species growing in it, and it's just such a proud moment because the beach was still there. The park ranger said that this particular part of the beach was known for coming back and disappearing and coming back. And the sea oats have held it in shape since then. Hold on, it's not letting me change the slide. There we go. And so, going back a few years from that CO planning, another thing I did when I first started my organization was raise money. And I did this by making different products out of eco-friendly materials like sun catchers and keychains. I made out of stones and rocks and stuff. And there's my awesome brother helping me out. And I'd sell these at local craft fairs and such. And I donate all the profits to ocean conservation because I wanted to. I love these organizations. Back then, it was the Ocean Conservancy and Stow It, Don't Throw It, and other great local projects. And I wanted to help them to be able to further their efforts to help the ocean. And so that's how I did this is by raising money through these items. And here's some other things that I've raised money through over the years. When I was 5 years old, I wrote a book titled Puffy the Pufferfish Saves the Ocean. And a few years ago, back in 2020, I think, I wrote Inspiration. And basically, Inspiration, I'll touch on that real quickly, is I wanted to make a book that inspired all ages. Puffy the Pufferfish was meant to inspire people of my age, and Inspiration, I wanted to, inspire people younger than me, teenagers, and adults. And so Inspiration starts out with a children's story, and then it goes into kind of a photography and quotation section, and finishes off with a bunch of interviews with people who have been really my role models and idols throughout my life. So that was a really enjoyable project to go on because I got to meet so many amazing people, and I really learned a lot of new things too, making the story for it. So I sell these items and donate all the profits as well, including that little puffy stuffed animal in the middle. And so here's something I'm really excited to talk about, and this is a rather recent endeavor in my conservation work, is sculptures. And just a little information about why I make these sculptures before I actually show them to you. So I personally believe that seeing something firsthand leaves a lot bigger of an impact in your mind than simply like reading statistics or looking at something on a piece of paper. And so these sculptures are made completely out of trash that I find at my beach cleanups. And the goal behind this is to get them featured in places where people will see them. And the people will see these, quite odd pieces of trash at times, or just the amount of trash on them, and it all comes from the local beaches. So I'm hoping that the people will see this and they're modeled after their favorite sea creature and will want to help. I mean, they'll feel inspired from it. So let me show you these sculptures real quickly. And I'll tell you kind of what they're made of as well. So this is an octopus, and the top of the screen, those are the titles of the sculptures. I named them after the scientific names. This is an octopus that I made a while back, and I'd say the main pieces on this one are the little suckers on the tentacles are like the glass bottle caps, the metal caps that you get. I find a lot of those. And the head of the octopus is a football. So I originally started out with this sculpture. I had a football, like one of those little Nerf balls, and I cut up a water jug to make kind of a mosaic around it. So that's how you get the nice textured. And then at the end of all my sculptures, I paint them. And the only part that's not trash is the eye. I just feel that's a very important part of the animal to make perfect, and these eyes really just tie it together. And so this is a sailfish I made a while back, and I made it for an auction that I donated. And let me see if I can find the main piece of this. The base of this one is a part of a car tire, actually. It's a part of a hubcap. And the body of it is multiple water bottles that I found at beach cleanups. I made it into it's a very specific body that the sailfish has, and those were perfect for getting that nice curve. And the rostrum, which is the bill on this right there, I hope you can see my mouse pointing to it. That's a fishing pole. So I find a lot of derelict fishing poles and the like, and that was, perfect piece to use as the bill. Oh yeah, and then a little interesting thing on this too is that the fin and tail. So I find a lot of car parts. I clean up a causeway that's right next to the highway, and I find a lot of car bumpers and valances, and I chop those up, and they make perfect fins in my opinion because they have the nice texture to them. And so here's a sea turtle I made, and this is actually on display in the Dunedin Town Hall with the octopus I showed you. And this is a turtle. The main parts about this, I think, are that the fins are made out of car bumpers, like I just talked about with the sailfish. And other than that, there's just a lot of different little pieces. There's all kinds of washers and cutlery and even bread tabs on the bottom right there. And that was a really fun one to make. It was like one giant mosaic piece. Here's a hammerhead, personally my favorite shark. And the front of this one, they have a really distinct head, and that's what I wanted to accentuate with this one. And it's made out of different like combs and forks and stuff that gives it nice kind of cohesive texture. And the base of this one is a funnel. I find a good amount of funnels at the beach for some reason, and they really do well to hold the sculpture up. Here's a cuttlefish. This one's pretty small. It's only about like, no, it's hard to do it over Zoom, but it's only about like less than a foot, I'd say. And this one is made out of a football again. So I find a lot of these Nerf footballs, and they're perfect for that kind of squid shape. And the little arms at the front of this one are made out of this part of my glasses. So like the part that goes above your ear, I find a lot of sunglasses that people leave, and you can really make a lot with sunglasses because of the lenses and whatnot. And I'll actually show you some lenses in action later in the slide. But yeah, I even found a little happy birthday cake topper. Here's a mantis shrimp, and definite. These are some of my favorite creatures in the ocean because those claws that they have, they can pack a punch that can break glass, that can completely shatter it, and they also look beautiful. So I loved making this one. It was really fun, and the exoskeleton is made out of a bunch of large water bottles. And then aside from that, on this one, I'd say another cool thing is that the claws are made out of a pocket knife and a box cutter. And then the lenses, I told you the sunglass lenses would come in handy. Those are the little appendages up here on its head. And then here's some more sculptures. I've only got one picture of these, but there's two seahorses and a big turtle kind of reef scene. And the reef scene is called anchorage because it is literally this giant heavy anchor that's weighing it down. And what was cool about this one is that I was actually able to upcycle my own art. So I made this turtle a while back for my first piece I ever made, and it was on display at a local restaurant. But the piece it was at my house and it was wearing down. So I took this turtle from off of it and I made it into something new. And then this seahorse in the middle here, a lot of people think that the frill on top is sea glass, but it's actually part of a car, where the headlights go. That stuff falls off eventually and it wears down. And I find it on the side of the road and I cut it into little pieces. And I don't know, I thought it was just a really cool because in person it kind of reflects the light. And then the base of this one is a really neat looking bottle that I found at the beach in perfect condition. And then here's some of the background, the backstory of me actually making my sculptures, the process of it, and every bit of this starts at the beach. So I'll show you a quick video, hopefully you all can see it, of one of my cleanups. Yeah, I try and do a few cleanups a month. There's an ornament I found. And then yeah, I'll just let that video play real quickly and then I'll show you the other. Yeah, it's amazing. The thing I love about cleanups is that you never know what you're going to find at the beach. I mean, there's some, I never like finding stuff, but there's some really weird stuff you find there, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. Uh, Let's see if this other, I hope you guys can see these videos. So that plate that started off that video there, usually, you find paper plates and stuff that people use once and throw away, but that was like a full-blown dinner plate. It was made out of ceramic or whatever, and it was really strange find to find like right near the coast. There's a whole bag of fishing lures, and there we go. And here is the trash before it's painted. So this was I showed you a different turtle in this one. I made this one more recently, but there's just some of the trash before I paint it. You can see there's a lot of like the same little black trash, and those are called macroplastics. So those little bits of trash that break down, and plastic never really breaks down. It just goes into microplastics. But I always keep those little macroplastics because they're big enough to actually use. And then aside from that on this one, you can see there's some reflectors in there from the street. And let me try and move on from this slide. And so I get asked a fair amount, what trash do I find the most at the beach? And I've kind of changed this question. What do I use most in my sculptures? So I sadly can't use all the trash I find. I clean up everything I find at beach cleanups and sort them and throw away what I can't, of course. But I take home what I can use, and that includes these right here. And I'll just let you read them at your leisure. That picture down there, that was a really big cleanup I went on with my brother, and you can see all those bags of trash we found, and that was about like I'd say an hour and a half of work. So it really doesn't take long to find a massive amount of trash. And down in this right corner, I always like sharing this because I think it's pretty cool, but I showed you that sailfish earlier, and there's the day I actually found the piece that I used as the base, right there, the car part. Let's see if I can change the slide. And then here's trash that I find a lot but cannot use in my sculpture. And right there, that picture on the top, I definitely couldn't use that. I found one day a giant carpet that had just been left on the beach. I don't even know why you'd bring a carpet at the to the beach, but it was totally waterlogged, and I worked hard to bring it to the trash, and I needed some help, but it eventually got there. And then here's a video of some of the bags and stuff like that that I found. They get stuck in the sand and they get really heavy, so you got to shake the sand out or weigh your bag down. but I find a lot of bags, sadly. And then one thing I want to point out on this list is diapers. So they, of course, I never want to pick up a diaper when I go to the beach and do a cleanup, but they are so important to pick up because they can last on the beach for hundreds of years. They're made out of plastic, first of all, so they never really break down, but I guess they're just special in that they're especially resistant to not breaking down, and I find them all the time. So it's really important to pick those up. Oh, I think it just glitched me out of my presentation. There we go. And then people also ask me what the craziest thing I've ever found at the beach is, and this has to take the cake for that. I found a mattress on the side of the road, and like the carpet from earlier, this was also waterlogged from rain, and I had to just leave it there. There's no way I could have picked that up, but it was gone next time I went to the beach. So that was really good to see that the city took care of it. And so here's just to finish off my personal work before going into the ocean in general. Here's where my sculptures have been on display if you're ever curious to see them. And I like sharing this part in particular because I'm very proud of it because the goal of my art is to inspire and to spread awareness. And in these places, I feel like these are the perfect places for my art to actually do that. You know, it gets to an audience. A lot of times, I speak to people who are already familiar with the ocean, and that's amazing, but it's important also to engage an audience that's not as familiar with animals or with pollution. And so these venues allow me to do exactly that. And so my art has been at Carnival Cruise Line. Here's the unveiling day, and this was 5 pieces. I don't think you saw some of them in the gallery I showed you. Uh, so hopefully I'll be able to show you in the next slide, maybe. Yes, and here's some of the pieces. There's a different octopus, a little dolphin, and the hammerhead shark from earlier. And then this was actually a really cool opportunity. Last year, they called me back for their 50th anniversary in Tampa Bay, and I made a giant whale. And this was the first whale I ever did, and it was really heavy, I'd have to say. But this was a real especially fun sculpture to do because whales are just, I don't know, they inspire me. They're awe-inspiring animals in general. And here's Earth Day at Tampa Bay Airport, or Tampa International Airport, excuse me. But I was invited last year for about a week exhibition around Earth Day to display my sculptures, and I think this was also 5 sculptures, and there's some that I didn't show in the gallery here as well. There's a big octopus and a paint bucket, um, and then there's a whole nother, that's the turtle that I showed you earlier in the video, that's it painted. And then Dunedin Town Hall, I talked about this a little bit earlier, but these 2 sculptures are on display there right now, actually. And then this is another really cool experience. My friend Enzo and I have been making sculptures for the Super Bowl experience for the past, I think, 5 years. Let me see. Yes, 5 years. So since 2020, we've made a football every year, completely out of trash. And these are especially large. I mean, you can see it in the top left. It's how they work is that it's like we make a base out of trash and we stuff that with trash and then cover it also with trash. And so these end up taking up a lot of stuff. I mean, they weigh a lot, and it's just a great way to inspire people, especially like football fans may not be as familiar with the ocean, so it's great to spread this to them as well. And so now I'm going to talk about ocean conservation in general and hopefully get you guys inspired to want to help the ocean or spread awareness about it. And I'm going to start with fun facts. So over the years, I have been enthralled with the ocean because of the animals and because of the ocean itself. It is, well, I'll just let the facts speak for themselves because I think I compiled a decently cool list of them. Of course, you can go online and find all of them. The ocean has infinite mysteries and stuff, but here's some of my favorite things to tell people about the ocean. So, first of all, the ocean is large, so large that it covers 71% of Earth's surface, is home to over 240,000 known species, with many, many more not yet discovered, and possibly millions more. It has its own mountain ranges. Mauna Kea, which is a mostly submerged dormant volcano in Hawaii, is actually the tallest mountain in the world when measured from base to peak. So I actually learned this while researching for this presentation. And basically what that means is it's technically taller than Mount Everest, but the way they measure mountains is from sea level up. So this one doesn't qualify as being taller because it's technically not. And then the ocean also holds massive waterfalls within it and winding rivers beneath its waves. And this is something else that I think is really cool. You can see a picture in the bottom right there. That's a cenote in Mexico. And beneath the waves, cenote is basically like a limestone formation that creates a hole. And underneath are great diving spots. And that's an undersea river. That whole picture is under the ocean. And basically, what happens, I believe, here is that some of the water gets a higher concentration of salt, and it basically creates a whole nother body of water within the ocean. And as for the waterfalls that I talked about, there are currents in the ocean that are like 4 times bigger than our waterfalls that just bring millions of gallons of water down to the depths. And let me see if I can move on. And then here are some of my favorite sea creature fun facts. So I hope you learn a thing or two from this. So first of all, I'm an artist, so I especially appreciate this one. But the white-spotted pufferfish is known for its artistic mating rituals. And to attract a female fish, a male will work tirelessly for a week to create an intricate pattern in the sand. And it even uses shells to decorate it. And I think this is pretty brilliant. There's a picture on the bottom there in the middle that work, and it's pretty big. I mean, they range in size. They can be very small or large, but that's all made by one little pufferfish, just working 24/7 to make that happen. And then next up, the Man o' War. Hopefully you guys have heard of it. It's a really interesting look. Oh, wait, I forgot you can see it. Sorry, my camera's blocking it on the right. There's a picture of it on the right. It's commonly thought to be a jellyfish, but it's actually a siphonophore. And basically what this means is they're made up of little tiny cloned organisms called zooids, and they each fulfill a special function like stinging or eating or digesting food. And I've always find that interesting. They look exactly like a jelly, but they're not. They're tons of tiny creatures. And the sunfish, also known as mola mola, can lay up to 300 million eggs at once. I can't even imagine that. That's just insane to me. But there's a picture of a baby mola mola in the bottom right. They lose their spines eventually, and I think that's where they get their sunfish name from, is those little spikes that they're born with. And then last, the red sea urchin can live to be over 200 years old, and there's a picture of it in the bottom left. And I don't know why I didn't include a picture of this, but the Greenland shark, which is a fascinating looking shark, can live over 250 for sure, and is estimated to even live beyond 500 years, going back centuries. And I think that's pretty incredible. In just one sec, I'm gonna get a drink of water. All right. And then one of the most intriguing parts of the ocean, in my opinion, is the depths. When you get thousands of feet below the seas and there's no light at all, that's where things start to get really interesting. And here's some of my favorite creatures of the deep. For one, the ancient frilled shark, which is considered a living fossil due to its rather unchanged appearance in 80 million years. So these were living back when the dinosaurs were around, and they basically look the same. Another popular living fossil is the coelacanth, which you might have heard of. They're just ancient looking fish, and that's a frilled shark in the bottom middle right there. Fearsome looking creatures, but they're smaller than they look. And then also the gulper eel, whose jaw can expand immensely to catch big prey. And that's in the bottom right. There's a before and after of it. And there's actually a video, the EV Nautilus submarine. That's where I got this from, this photo. If you watch that video, it's pretty brilliant. The whole process of it filling up its mouth to look big and scary and then deflating, it's really cool. And then the ghostly barrel eye, who has a completely transparent forehead that allows its two green eyes to look directly above it, whether it's like looking for prey or looking out for predators. You can see there that it has a really neat adaptation to allow it to look really directly up. And then ctenophores, which are commonly known as comb jellies, are, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful examples of bioluminescence. And you can see those on the top right there. And then speaking of bioluminescence, that's a thing that I find pretty amazing in the ocean. And I'll tell you a little bit about what goes on, the chemical reaction, what goes on behind bioluminescence in the first place. So it's a chemical reaction that occurs between something called luciferin and luciferase and oxygen. So when these combine, the product of this reaction is a photon of light, which is the bioluminescence. And it can be many different colors, most commonly blue-green, especially in the ocean. And most animals make their own of these compounds, but the rest of the animals that don't have to obtain them in other ways. And some do this by eating bioluminescent animals, and others develop a symbiotic relationship with bioluminescent bacteria. And basically, what a symbiotic relationship is both animals benefit. So in the latter instance that I told, where the bacteria gets along with the creature, the bacteria get a home and food from the host animal, and in turn, they provide they provide light for the host. Animals can use bioluminescence for a few reasons, and that includes hunting, camouflage, and finding a mate. Although scientists are constantly, they're thinking of new ways that they're possibly going to use this light for. And in the bottom middle, that's an anglerfish, probably one of the most famous examples of bioluminescence. And they're an example of the symbiosis. In the tip of their little, I suppose you can call it a lure, it's called an esca also. But that's full of bacteria that works with the fish to create light when they need it. And in the left there, that's an atoll jellyfish. I just included that because I think they look beautiful. And in the bottom right there, the background of this slide is actually, I think we have it in Florida here too. But in different parts around the world, little tiny organisms called dinoflagellates make bioluminescence, and they surface above the sea into the waves and make this just beautiful spectacle of light. And that's an example of one of these little individual creatures close up. So I hope you enjoyed those fun facts. I had a lot of fun researching them for this presentation. I learned a lot of new things too. That's what I love about the ocean is that it's so mysterious and we know such little about it that there's constantly new things being discovered, new species and whatnot. And I hope you're feeling inspired now, maybe to help the ocean. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about why to help the ocean. And so earlier I mentioned that my personal motivation behind helping the ocean is the animals, these cute little creatures, clownfish. In the middle is called a lumpsucker, and on the right, that's a pufferfish, which is my favorite of all time. And not everybody loves the animal part of the ocean, or or I'm sorry, not everybody cares about the nature as much as I do. And I understand that. And so here's a few ways, or a few reasons why everybody, no matter who you are or where you live, should want to help the ocean. So, firstly, the economy, and this is especially important for us here in Florida. The ocean is huge contributing factor to our economy. It provides tourism. It invites in hundreds of thousands of people every year come in just to see our beaches, to surf, and look at the animals and whatnot. And it contributes billions to our economy, which is obviously very important. But not only that, it helps all kinds of different seaside restaurants and stores and cities. And since I live in basically a seaside county, it's very important to have a healthy ocean so that your economy can be healthy as well. And for jobs, the UN says that the ocean provides jobs for around 3 billion people. That's an insane amount. And even if you're not working like as a fisherman, the ocean can still impact your job very, very much. And a perfect example, I think, of how the ocean and the economy and jobs tie in, especially for us here in Florida, is that when red tide comes, and this comes annually and it gets worse every year, sadly, but when red tide comes, the ocean smells awful. Red tide is basically a bunch of cyanobacteria that come in and invade the oceans and cause fish die-offs, and it's a really sad event. Well, these not only affect the fish, but it affects the seaside businesses as well. It deters tourism. People don't want to eat at restaurants by the sea, and all around, it's just an awful thing. So there's a bunch of different examples of red tide around the world in different instances. Not all of it's the algal blooms, some of it's different things like pollution or bad water. And it just shows how interconnected the whole world is really. And then the final thing, why help the ocean? There's a ton of reasons I could think of beyond this, but another main thing is resources. First of all, if you're talking about like chemical resources, it is thought that the ocean produces over 50% of the world's oxygen supply, and some estimates say over 80%. And I think a lot of people, I know I used to, when someone says oxygen production, you think of trees and rainforests. And they're not to be undervalued at all. Rainforests are amazing for our world and for the oxygen, but oceans are really underrated in how effective they are at helping us to breathe, which is essential to life. And in many areas of the world, seafood is a staple, and without it, people would go hungry. So food is another big thing that the ocean provides us with. And then lastly, the ocean contributes ingredients to many different everyday items, and these include just to give you an example, algae alone can be found in cosmetics, supplements, fertilizers, and food. And to go even further, kelp, which is a type of algae, can be found in paint and ice cream, among other things. I just think paint and ice cream are the coolest two to give a shout out to because you never expect that. And without the ocean, the hundreds of thousands of creatures and plant life living in it, imagine how many things we wouldn't be able to make, possibly life-saving medicines. And to finish off my presentation, I'm going to explain how anybody can make an impact. And earlier I said one person can make a difference, and I really live by that statement. And just to give you a quick anecdote of how that's true, let's say you're walking down the beach, just walking down the beach, and you see a bag, and you decide to pick up that bag and throw it in the trash. Well, you just prevented that piece of trash from ever ending up in the ocean, so it will never resemble a jellyfish, and a turtle will never mistake it for food and eat it, and the turtle will never get sick. That may seem, I mean, it's like 40 seconds or less to put a bag in the garbage, and it's such a small part of your day. But for that turtle, you possibly saved its life. You made a world of difference to that animal, and I think that's important, not just in ocean conservation, but in life, is that every action you make makes a huge impact, but it especially resonates in ocean conservation. And so the first thing, just gonna tell you about different experiences I've had over the years of different ways to help. I'm gonna get a drink of water real quick, sorry. All right. So firstly, spread the message of conservation. Organize events around your community with the goal of teaching about the ocean and inspiring others to want to help. And I personally enjoyed working with my Montessori school over the years, arranging presentations, activities, and once we even did a week of ocean-themed summer camp. And this was a particularly amazing experience because it was a long while ago when I was in elementary school, and we did like different activities showing how bad trash was for the ocean and just introducing the kids to these topics. And what was amazing about it is that I noticed some of the kids started to bring reusable straws and reusable cups. And that really meant a lot because it showed I was actually making an impact. Even if it was a small one, I was inspiring them to want to make a difference. And this is the goal of this kind of helping the ocean is spreading message of conservation. You want people to get involved. You want to inspire them and leave a positive impact. And that is why I personally feel if I were to give one bit of advice that, I mean, everybody has their own ways of speaking, but my personal feelings on this is I love being positive when speaking because it really encourages people. It makes them want to feel motivated to help. Of course, it's important to talk about the bad things happening in the ocean because then people will think there's no reason to want to help. But you can do that in kind of a way that's not all gloom and doom and make sure to include the fun aspects of the ocean and tell them about the cool things, the amazing facts and incredible creatures. And there's some picture. Wow, that picture's from a while ago in the bottom left. That was in my kindergarten classroom when I did for Global Youth Service Day a presentation on the ocean. And that was more recent in the middle. There's my friend Enzo and I again doing something in the middle school. And on the right there, that's my first ever speaking engagement. That was at the Youth Ocean Conservation Summit, which is an awesome thing. It's actually based in Sarasota. It's and my mentor Sean Russell runs it. And so another way to help the ocean, this is my second favorite way, and this is really, really exciting. I enjoy doing this a lot, but is to take part in or plan events that directly help your local ecosystem. And this is basically the field work of conservation. What you can do may vary from place to place. I always, you can organize stuff on your own, or if you don't want to, just reach out to local organizations to see what they have in mind, what they have scheduled. And some activities that I've taken part in over the years include some I've already told you about, plantings and beach cleanups. But there's also some other really neat things, which if you do research, you can discover. One example is coral restoration. And what they do basically is they make coral and oyster reefs out of different, I think it was concrete, the one I did, but they make it out of different objects. And you put them in the ocean, and if you come back in a year, there'll be oysters all over it, which is really important for the bay. And that's a really fun thing to do. You meet some great people doing this stuff. And another thing, I've only done this once, but I will never forget the day. It was called a ghost trap rodeo. And I think they do this annually where you go out into Tampa Bay and you pick up all kinds of ghost traps, derelict fishing gear and whatnot on a boat. And it was a really like stormy day. So it just set a nice mood for doing this kind of work. But by the end of the day, it was about a group of maybe 30 to 40 volunteers. We hauled in let me try and think. It was at least 1,000 pounds of trash. So it was really incredible to see the impact we were able to make in like a few hours work. And then there's an example of just some of the stuff you can find on a cleanup. And then there's a picture of mangrove planting on the right of the screen. And then lastly, I'll talk about a specific example of this before, like just to tell you exactly what it is, but take on a current issue and try to make big change. And so basically what this is an example I have of this is a while ago, two of my friends, Enzo and Sebastian and I, we started an environmental studies class in our middle school where basically what we did is we assigned each student a straw to research. And we went really deep into these straws. We researched the pros and cons completely, the cost, the biodegradability, all kinds of things. And when this was all finished, when the class was finished, us three made a presentation featuring the research. And what we did with this presentation was we pitched it to about five or six large food corporations. And this is really cool experience. It taught me a lot. And there's two lessons or one lesson that I would have to say was really important with this is that I learned, we had to work hard to get in these companies to give the presentation. And I learned that never give up. If you're trying, I had to send out a lot of emails, make a lot of phone calls to land these corporations. And it was, you heard a lot of no's, but it was the yeses that really mattered. And it was an unforgettable experience. And I'm sorry, I gotta get another drink of water. And basically, what I was trying to tell originally with making big change and taking on a current issue is that we knew at the time that plastic straws weren't the biggest issue in the ocean. That goes to derelict fishing gear, which accounts for I think like 50% of all trash. But what straws were, if you remember going a few years back, is that plastic straws were a really hot topic. I mean, there's videos circulating of it affecting turtles and all kinds of animals. And that was really important for two reasons. For one, the kids in our middle school were really excited to learn about it and research these items. And also, companies were willing to hear it. So the companies were very receptive to our presentations because it was important for them to, do something for the press or whatnot with moving to environmentally friendly options. So I'm trying to think. There was something else that was really important that I want to say about this. Like I can't remember it. I'll go back to it if I um, remember. And then here's some of the straw alternatives that we discovered. So if you're ever curious to adventure out and use some different straw alternatives, here's what we found in our research, and I can give my personal opinions on this as well. So we found paper straws, acrylic, glass, silicone metal hybrid, avocado pit, hay, Twizzler, candy pasta, bamboo, copper, corn, rice, compostable, grass, no straw, reed, agave, sugarcane, and coconut. So some very strange ones in there and some that you've probably seen or even used before. And my personal favorite out of this bunch was avocado pit, rice, agave, and candy, of course. I mean, it just tastes amazing. It might not be the best for drinks, especially hot ones because it melts, but they taste really good. But avocado pit and rice, they were brilliant. I mean, they feel and taste just like plastic straws, but they can biodegrade just like anything you find in the environment. And my least favorite straws were copper and grass, both because of taste. But I always like sharing about the straws that we found because we did a lot of research, and I think we found just about every straw out there. So this was a really fun adventure to embark on. And yeah. So thank you so much. I hope you learned a little bit from this presentation. I want to thank again you so much, Sarasota University, for having me here. I really had a lot of fun researching this presentation and presenting it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much. And I think
Ryan, that was amazing. I learned so
Thank
much
you.
and am so inspired by your work. You have done
You.
such magnificent things. And I just want to personally thank you for helping to save our oceans and to preserve the life that it exists in our oceans. It's not something that I have a lot of knowledge about, and I've learned so much tonight. This was amazing.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thanks. I really appreciate it.
Ryan, I wonder, would you be willing to take a couple of questions from the audience?
Definitely. I love questions.
All right. Well, if anyone would like to put something into the chat or just come off mute if you have a question for Ryan, we have a few minutes remaining. Ryan, do you have any speaking engagements coming up? Is there somewhere we might see you if we were
Very good question.
attending an event?
Not at the moment. This is my current speaking thing that I've been preparing for, and then
Wonderful.
I'll be sure to let you know an email if I have any other, engagements or anything where I present
That
at.
would be
Um,
great.
but yeah, this is
And Ryan, if we want to support your work, do you have a website? Is there a place
yes,
where
I
we can
do.
purchase sculptures or purchase copies of your book or your materials?
Yes. Hold on, let me stop sharing screen just real quickly. And then I'll put my website. Basically everything I do is under the Fish's Wishes in some form. So my website is the same. But this is the Fish's Wishes. That's my website where you can just see my current projects I'm doing, and there's a link, and I'll give you a direct link to it as well. But there's a link on that website where if you click it, it takes you to a sculpture website, and that's where you can reach out if you're ever curious about getting a sculpture made for you, if you want to
Awesome.
join a beach cleanup or join one of the events I'm planning, just reach out there.
Ryan, we have a couple of questions in the chat. One, Penny's wondering if you ever do classroom presentations. Do you ever do virtual presentations or maybe something in person? Or would you be open to that?
Actually, I just presented to a school about 2 weeks ago and I had a blast. I love learning, I'm sorry. I love speaking to kids because the questions they ask are amazing. They're brilliant. And yes, I would love to speak to any classroom.
Fantastic. And would we go to your website if we wanted to reach out to you around?
Yes, I'll put my email in the
Okay,
chat as well, which goes by the same name.
awesome.
It's the fisheswishes@gmail.com. If you're ever curious, if you live nearby and want to join a cleanup or a planting, I'll be sure to keep you updated on those too.
And one of the questions is what is your base state? Where are you located?
Base state, I'm in Tampa Bay area, Florida, and that's where I've done cleanups all around the US. Whenever I travel, I make sure to do a little bit of work wherever I'm at. But yeah, Tampa Bay area is where I do the brunt of my work.
Fantastic. Lynn Gibson is wondering if you've ever read the book 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Oh, that's a cool question. I have a copy and I started to read it, but I got busy and sidetracked. But I love the imagery it had at the beginning, so I'm definitely
Yes.
going back to it.
And there's a fun movie too. I recommend
Really?
it to everyone.
Ooh,
It, it's a fun movie to watch too. Ryan,
thank you.
Suzanne is wondering, do you know how much garbage you've collected in total over the years?
Oh my gosh. I've been asked that one other time, actually was speaking to a classroom and I couldn't come up with an answer. I do cleanups. I've been doing them pretty consistently, maybe like once a week or t 3 times a month for basically like all my life since I was 4 years old. So each
Wow.
time I go to the beach, I find about like on average, sometimes I find less and more. So the average is about a big, like a regular sized trash bag of trash. And
Wow.
yeah, I'd say it's got to be at least hundreds of pounds, if not maybe like more than 1,000 over the years. And most of it is on just the same local waterways that I clean up I cycle through them. So
That's amazing. Well, you're making such a big difference, Ryan. Thank you. Ryan, Rana says passion about your project is commendable, and congratulations. Keep it up.
Well, thank you
And
so much.
Lorna is wondering how, if someone's interested in purchasing one of your sculptures, go to your website. Is that the best place to go?
Definitely. I'm very flexible. Like if you want a certain size of sculpture, animal, whatever style you want, just reach out to me and I'll see if it's feasible, and it most likely is. I mean, I love making sculptures though that people custom make because I like making a myriad of different sea creatures.
Fantastic. And one more question, Ryan. Pamela is
Yes.
wondering, what would you say were some barriers to getting started with this work?
Ooh, that's a very good question because it I was talking about Sean earlier and his Stow It, Don't Throw It in Youth Ocean Conservation Summit, and that was actually so. This kind of leads into a whole story, but when I was younger, I wanted to expand my work from the cleanups, and to do that, I wanted to get involved in a local organization or work on like a contest or something that had to do with ocean conservation. And so I reached out to a bunch of different people, and I got told again and again that I was, too young or that I wasn't within the age boundaries of what they were hosting. And so I reached out to Sean one day and his project, and back then he ran like a whole film festival where you could submit your
Oh,
own ocean film. And I reached out to him, and he was amazing person. He made a whole age category just for my age so that I could
oh,
participate. And it was really discouraging to get told no and no again when I was so
right.
young. And I think Sean's part, or not part, he is a big reason, a big part of the reason that I stayed with the work. So that, fortunately, I haven't had too many barriers with my work over the years. Um, but that was probably the main one I've encountered, and it was because of Sean that I overcame it.
Wow, that's great. It's wonderful to find someone who will support you in your work, and I'm glad Sean was there for you. Ryan, we
Yeah.
have one last question. Lynn is
Yes.
wondering what future plans you have.
That's a great question. Oh, that also leads me into something I didn't include in my presentation. Um, so future plans, I'm going to always continue my work. I'm continuing the sculptures and the beach cleanups and everything that I basically presented about in the presentation, but I'm always looking to find new ways to inspire. And so I'm currently working on a short film this year. I'm currently on a gap year, and I'm taking the time to work on this. I've interviewed three amazing conservationists, or actually four amazing conservationists to be featured in this film, and it's going to be called Inspiration, I think, like my book. So the goal of this, it's going to be like 20-minute film, is to inspire people, just like basically everything else I do, that aren't as familiar with the ocean. So keep a lookout for that. I'll be updating it probably on my website and my Instagram, which is also the Fish's Wishes. But yeah, that's my current main project that I've been working hard on. And then I've also got some new sculptures, new animals that I've never created before coming out pretty soon, actually. So keep a lookout for those as well.
Fantastic. Well, Ryan, again, thank you so much for being here this evening. For those of you who are here tonight, again, thank you for your participation. And I'd just like to remind everyone that if you'd like to watch this presentation again, you may find the recording at Sarasota University YouTube channel. We will be sending you a follow-up survey. We ask that you complete that. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you will receive a certificate of attendance that you might be able to use for professional development credits where you work. If there's anything that Ellen and I could do to support you in following your career goals, if you'd like to have more information about our degree programs, please reach us at info@sarasotauniversity.edu. Again, Ryan, thank you. This was an inspiring presentation tonight, and thank you for helping make the world a better place. Thanks, everyone. Great to see you, and see you next month.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.